How are we all doing?
Right,
Very well.
Got my list here. My list of notes.
Bloody hell.
I'm really enjoying that it's written on an envelope as well.
Got mine here, Joe. Duke, I've got all mine.
Duke's just probably written on back of a takeaway menu.
Why would I deface a takeaway menu?
Because you know it off by heart.
Silly boy, Gavin. Silly boy.
Thank you to our 4 sponsors for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Art Caterers and Milltown Pies, Alexander Grace Law, Jez and Lisa's Spoonful of Sweets, and SPE Furnishings. Links to their websites are available in the show notes and on our website. Don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they're released.
Yeah, sorry.
I spoke to Stan tonight as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah, it's good, yeah.
Good.
He drops by every day to have a chat with me and Paddy.
Excellent.
So you and Paddy are both working at club, are you?
Well, Paddy comes down to...
What are you doing at
Right.
Club, John?
I set up a little office.
Saving eating bills for his mum and dad, Gav. That's what he's doing.
Just
Always thinking, Joe, I like it.
just to get me out of the house, Gav,
Absolutely, mate.
a bit of a recluse. So
Jez, are you in a different location tonight? You look like you're in a slightly different surroundings.
It's just a little. It's our front bedroom that's turned into a bit of an office. It's a little bit more, well, not comfier. The laid on the settee back room is comfier, but I've got access to more screens and I can look at different stuff as well. So I don't feel left out to it when you and Joe Martin are coming out with all sorts of stats, other things.
There won't be much time taken on that tonight, believe you me.
Oh, Gav, I don't know. Don't put yourself down, lad.
Well, there's plenty who'll do it for you, isn't there? That's the saying.
my mum said when she heard that Gav was coming on, she said nobody's allowed to say anything bad about him. He looked after you and Paddy when you were children.
There you go.
And she says that every time Gav comes up with the typical sort of, no, what a grand lad.
Yeah, there we go. Happy day.
So you've got Sue Martin's approval there, Gav.
Hey, good enough for me.
That's quite funny, really, because before we get stuck in and go through a few bits and bats, because obviously, not that it matters, but Lisa listens to most of it or can hear it because I talk loud and everyone else is loud. And so I said, we've got a podcast on Thursday. All right, that's good. And who's on it? So I said, Gav. And, what a lovely lad Gav is. He said, I'll no doubt you'll all be talking about that daft. What happened that time when you got someone punch you in the face? So I said, well, I didn't get punched in the face. It was an unfortunate incident where I got hit by an offensive weapon. And yeah, you were playing that game, weren't you? All jump.
All climb on. You said it before, yeah. All climb on. That's a different game. That we're not allowed to play that anymore.
She said he's so funny, Gav. When you're all chatting and he's such good company. She said, "Can I try his accent?" I said, "Yeah, go on." So I recorded it. Just listen to this. Could you hear it at all?
No.
I'll send it you. See if you can play it any louder. I don't know where Mike is on this.
Basically, what does she say, Jez?
She said he does this. I'll tell you what it is, Jez.
Oh, what a knob, Gav.
Have you had your vaccine yet, Jez?
You cheeky little fucker.
Oh, well, at least like the list. And
They've had me, Joe, I'll tell you.
No, I haven't. No.
Because how old are you, Jez? Like 50?
12.
56?
That'll do.
I don't know how old you are.
I'm 58 next.
Oh, yeah.
in about 2 weeks.
Well, you don't look it.
Oh, I'll stop crawling now.
There's something wrong with your screen, Joe.
Oh, you dickhead. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Housecast, Lowerhouse Cricket Club's unique podcast. Another fantastic episode afoot, I can feel. We've got an absolute top banana, a really good friend of mine, and I know he's a good friend of a lot of people at the cricket club. We use the word character, but he is a character. He's played down the club. This evening guest is the one and only Gavin Shields. So we'll come on to Gav in a minute. Just go around the people who are helping me host this podcast. We've got the one and only Joe Martin back with us. How's it going, Joe? I see you're still in the West End room, burning all our bills and saving your mum and dad's.
If I didn't come here during the summer, when we turn the heating on, it'd just explode.
Hang on, say that again.
If I didn't come in the winter, this is I've been thinking about this. Yeah, but if I didn't come in the winter,
is this your first time, Joe?
Come the summer, when we turn all the heating on, it'd just go.
Why would we put the heating on in summer?
I don't know if you noticed, but it gets.
Anyway, it's a feeble excuse because we probably have it on tick over, so we can just keep it going.
Yeah, but you need to manage it, Jez. That's you need to manage it.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. You sat there in your trunk, so that's what's causing me some concerns. I believe there's some activity down at the club over the last couple of weeks. Joe Martin, give us an update. What's been going on?
So obviously the renovations to the clubhouse have gone very well, redecorated, redoing the bar, and that looks brilliant. And unfortunately, after the end of clubhouse, the roof, it was just going to collapse.
Yeah, that was where, above the dance floor, isn't it? That's what we're talking about, where that legendary dance floor is, yeah. Yeah,
that's right, and where Gav run the gauntlet.
Okay.
As well,
Absolutely.
The equal kind of feats there, isn't there, in dancing?
Yeah. Well, go on, Joe, what's going on?
Yeah, so they've just finished today, actually. They finished putting the room today. They've tiled it as well, which is remarkable. It actually looks like it fall down now.
Right. Tile the external of the roof or the ceiling inside? Right, brilliant.
So it's not, there is bits of that was maybe not aspect.
Right, brilliant. So it's all looking good.
Yeah,
Did you go out and give them a chuckle? Because it is a bit cold. I'm sure you'd have helped them.
Well, I'm a big coat, and I'm more of a kind of thinking man. I'm not a practicalist, so I just give them a few pointers on the where they need to put the joists.
Okay. The joists. Right, brilliant. Thank you. Other host this evening is our legendary ex-skipper, Joe Beneducci. How you going, Joe? You okay?
I'm all right, thanks, Jez. Are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, steady away. I mean, it's absolutely bitter cold. I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but we're getting through there. The nights are getting shorter. The days are getting a touch longer. So are you looking after your elderly neighbour still?
Yeah, I have to drop him in a hot water bottle every now and again, make sure he's all right. He must have, like yourself, he must be close to getting his vaccine now.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be. I think Blazers probably had his, because I think he's 13 years older than 49 next. So
49 next, yeah.
So he's probably had his, but he seems all right, does he?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
We've got to check in for him. So as I've mentioned, we've got the one and only Gavin Shields on the show tonight. Gav's played for the cricket club for a long time. He's one of the original Rugrats, as they were christened, came through the group of probably 7, 8 or 9 of them at the time that came through, and there's still 6 or 7 of them are regular down at the cricket club in all sorts of different. So welcome on the Housecast, Gav. How's it going?
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, Jez. I'm well, I am. I'm doing all right, thank you.
Good. You're looking well, Gav. I like that big photo in the back, or painting in the background. I'm not sure whose gob it is, but I don't know.
Well, you know me, I'm rather cultured. I like a bit of art around the place,
Yeah, brilliant. So thanks for coming on, Shields. We've got, there's loads of stuff we want to chat about. I think it's fair to say that this is probably one of the podcasts. It's up there in the top 2 or 3 as having the most questions and people getting involved that you're on, and they want to bring up other incidents that have happened. So I am looking forward to it. It should be great fun. The way we normally run it, Gav, we'll just talk through your career, really, as being a young kid, what you remember. It's just like us being stood at the end of the bar, having a couple of pints, telling the same stories we told 2 weeks ago and belly laughing. So let's try and reenact that. Joe and Dooch will come in at any time. They'll ask you, the odd question. I'm sure there'll be things that they want. Just to get things going, Gav, just explain to us. We've done this with Matt Marquis and Matt Stanley and Dooch. And when you first came down to the club, how old were you? What were your memories and who was down there at the time? Just give us an overview of your first memories.
Okay, so my first cricketing memories was I actually started playing cricket at high school for the first time. And got in the team. There were no cricketers in the family, and some would argue that they're still in. But sort of really enjoyed it at school. I've probably gone home and said to mum, "Oh yeah, I'm loving it." At the time, unbeknownst to me, my dad's at work. Used to work with Chris Willen's dad over at Nelson. So my dad's come home one day and said, "Bloke I work with goes down Nelson." So he's offered to. If you want to go down and see if you like it about, and when you're a young lad, you do what your dad says, don't you? So
how old would you have been then?
Probably 11, 12.
Yeah, I remember Chris Willen. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, went down there. Really nice people, nice club, really welcoming, really friendly. And before you know it, been to a few practices. Played a few games. I ended up playing for the rest of the summer in their under-13s team, but probably like other people who've been on, and you're trying to think back and think, cracky, how old were I? It's that long ago. I know for a fact that I played in under-13s at Lowerhouse, so I can't have been 13. So I must have been 11 or 12. By that point, I were obviously big mates with Matt Stansfield. I'd met Matt Marquis at high school in the first year when we were 11. So, we rapidly, playing sport and becoming, great pals. Probably the conversation right along the lines of, we both down here. Why don't you come down? You go where your mates are, don't you? So, came down to the club. My dad were happy with it, no problem at all. Came down to Lowerhouse at that time. Didn't know anybody other than, Matt Stanley and Marcus, really. I would have probably bumped into, Beneducci at that point. Although I don't really remember that until the 15s. Reg Wardle was the coach. Lovely man. Seemed to have time for everybody. Never really seemed to lose his patience. An absolute diamond of a bloke. And I'll be honest with you, it was really easy. It was great. I loved it. And I just thought, I love it. I'm here, yeah. So, never looked back, really.
And when you think, we're all the same no matter how old we are. I know we take the mickey, but it seemed like every day was sunny. Every day was a good laugh. Every day you enjoyed your cricket. There weren't the crappy times. And you were living around the club, around that area. Were you then? Were you still in the same house or?
Yeah, Mum and Dad lived on Inglis Road, which is sort of Aki Road, Rosendale Road, end of Aki Road. Could wander down, and like you say, it was great. Every Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, but it was just great. It was superb. I loved it. Crack that face even back then.
No, it is. And those memories will stick with us all forever in the different eras that we played in. In your era, I do think is quite special when you look at who was around there and how you've all stuck together. And I think it's the heart of this podcast. We're talking through those memories. And I do want to talk about this, Gav, as we go on, because you were a good footballer. You were playing decent level football. Towards the end of your school years, having trials with various clubs. Were you footballing winter then? When you were, in that early years, 10 to 15, were you playing a lot of football in the winter and cricket in the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. It were school. If it were, I weren't playing for school or practicing for school. We were playing for my, training, for my Sunday team. And then, it'd be a club I was at, and it were pretty much every night a week, easily 6 nights, 5-6 nights a week, and. You look back on it now as an adult, and you just think parents are dynamite, and everybody who's played sports will say the same. At whatever level, it's irrelevant. The sacrifices and the hours that they put into. I don't have the vocabulary to explain, how grateful I am. My dad used to drive me all over the north of England, and my mum she'd come to the odd game, but she wanted to stay away really, and she spent most of the time on her own really watching soaps, So I felt bloody sorry for her, really. But in winter, it was very much, our house of football match. I used to go on, watching Burnley. First went on turf, 87 for a couple of games with my dad. Loved it, absolutely loved it. And then from 88 onwards, Mad King Clarets fan. Used to go on every Saturday. Never missed an home game for years.
Yeah, and it is. And when you say that it's testament to you and, to a lot of people down at the cricket club. And I'm sure, in a lot of other areas, the thanks they give to the parents, but I can assure you, Gav, they would have enjoyed doing it as well and seeing you, developing and enjoying outdoor activities and everything. So it's, it's fantastic to hear the credit that you're passing on to your parents. So you then, the cricket is developing, you're doing well at football, and it's 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. What's your early memories of that, the junior cricket? Any games in there you can remember, any stories around that junior cricket, and then starting to trying to break into senior cricket? What's your memories of that, Gav?
I don't remember a heck of a lot, but what I do remember, I think my version of it is right. Me and Aggers, I've heard a bootleg copy of Aggers' recording. I'd nipped to Bottle Top in Grove for a loaf, and there were lads selling bootleg copies of Aggers' recordings. So So, I parted with a couple of quid and got one of them. And I have to say that his recollection is not the same as mine. But, I remember playing under 13s. I remember that game that he talks about, because obviously me and Agus are, great friends now. So, we've joked about that for quite a while. And, it was his first game. That's true. But as we all know, he's never been great running between wickets, has he? That's the night it all started on his first game. He's never been brightest, and whoever wants to play cricket right the box, it's the first thing you remember, isn't it, really?
Tell us what you remember about that Agus' first game.
So we played away at church. Obviously, we're on a junior wicket, so we're right near the stand at the top end. I'm batting with Agus. He's a young lad. He gets it in nuts. Goes down. Being the caring, older lad that I am, Jez. I have a wander down and give him a reassuring. Are you all right, pal? Blah blah blah. He's a bit soft in his film, but yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. So he gets up. He takes his time. A couple of balls later, this is where he's wrong. He hits one. He calls me through for a single, and I ran out by 137 yards, I think, when we counted. So he sold me right down river, and his running never got better between wickets from then on in, really. Right. Started as he meant to go on.
Right, well, then, who knows if we're still in lockdown in the next 18 months, and we're doing our 200th version of this, and maybe get you both on and see if we can get to the bottom of it. During that, you're obviously a little bit older than Agus.
Yeah.
So you've played a bit before. So sorry for interrupting you there, but just explain about that late junior cricket and the development into senior cricket, what your memories are around that.
So at that time, Benny might have to help us out here, really. My memory was that probably moving into the under 15s team, there was Johnny Russell, Benny, Matt Marquis, Matt Stansfield, myself, and one or two others.
Johnny Russell.
Yeah. But there wasn't the massive swells of youngsters down at the club now. And, the under 15s was really the third team as well, especially towards the latter end of that. But we never complained. It was great. Do you want to play cricket? On Saturday? Yeah, you're brilliant. Jumping straight from 20 overs to, what would it have been then? 43, 46 overs.
46, I think it was.
Yeah, was it too long? Yeah, probably. But did we love it? Absolutely. We'd have played 123 overs. It was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. And you learned so much. And not only that, as well, might sound a bit corny, but that's when, great friendships are made. And they really are. The proof of that is the fact that we're all still pals now, 20 odd years later, and it was brilliant. There was nothing but, the fondest memories, and, Mickey taking, everyone has their 5 minutes, and it's brilliant. It's great. And we all stuck together and, moved up through the teams together, and it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's not corny, Gav, at all. You're right, and if you thought your own kids and your future generation, get the same, then it's got to be a good thing. Who would have been the senior players around that time that you get the nod to, can you play this Saturday? Because probably someone's cried off, or there's injuries, or second team, or even taking people. Who would have been the senior players that you would look up to around that period?
So at that time, because we had an under 17s team as well, and you're captain that. Yeah. And that's when things started to get, a bit lively then, because we've sort of left school. We think we're Jack the lads, and Matt's a good crack in here. Don't forget, by being 15, 16, we've been at lane ends with you lot when games have been rained off. Us lot know yourself and Jez, Nicky, Matt, Prop. We know everybody. We looked up to everybody in the third team. The people probably outside of that. We're probably Stephen Yardley used to play at thirds. Joe, is that right?
Andrew Wren.
Yeah. Renners, Terry Small.
No one else has mentioned that on the podcast, because the more podcasts we do, the more similar stories we tell, and there's different versions. They're still as funny, and but going in the lane ends, I clearly wasn't there. It would have been the other people. But I do remember the stories of a game's called off. Seriously, Joe Martin, and this lot, there'll be 6 or 7 of them, all think they're Jack the lads. They're only 15 or 16, and they'd be playing pool. And this lot would just be sat around trying to sneak half a lager here or whatever. Good fun in there.
Obviously, we never had mobiles, did we, out like that? And when games were called off, when we were 16, really, we were playing more in second team and stuff like that. Well, not all the time. But when we did it, games were called off, and we all went to, right, where are we going? And you'll be going to lane ends. And that'd be the only time where, having worked 6 days a week, my dad, summer really, when he's sort of time off, he'd always say to me, if they go in boozer, ring me. go to the phone box on corner, because the one in Clubhouse wouldn't be working, invariably. Walk there, give me a ring, I'll come down, pick your bag up, give you a £5, job's a good one. You know what I mean? And because he understood how good it were to be with lads. What a great tale about that, though, because the first couple of times we'd go in, scared to death. Never been in a boozer with lads. You know, thinking, oh, cracky, you know, we're going to get served, we're going to get served. And if back in the day, the lane ends were set out differently, weren't it? We're all different rooms, like tap room and things like that.
Yeah.
And in tap room, Joe, they couldn't see you from the main bar as you walked in. So in the tap room, right, you had a bell on the bar. And the idea were that when you were at the bar and you were waiting, because obviously they'd be serving people you could see in the main room. So the idea were you beat tap room, you get the bell, ding, 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 put it down, and they'd know that someone was waiting, they'd come in and serve you. So for the first couple of times you go in, then go bar, so lads would get you a beer, Proc or Matt or Paul Stanley or whatever, get you a beer, Rasescas. And then after a couple of weeks, you're like, sort yourself out, don't serve you, it's right. No, you're right. But no chance of like that. Like all young lads, who's going to look at this? So I was at the bar. I don't think I was first, but I went to the bar and I'm stood there and there's not a cat and else chance I am ringing that. No chance. Right? So I'm stood there and I must have been stood there an absolute age. And all of a sudden, John Proc walks behind me, gets hold of the bell and goes, puts bell down on bar and then ducks down bar. Bar lady from front room come running in as fast as she could and said, I'll be in a minute, all right. Scared to death, like, brilliant. I looked down and proper giggling, like, proper laughing his head off.
Brilliant.
Lad and sinker there.
I could just picture you 5 or 6 sat on that bench in bottom corner.
Yeah.
And just picture you all being cheeky as ever. We're getting through. What year would we be looking at now, Gav? We're early 80s.
96.
96-ish.
So,
right.
Yeah. It would have been 96. We'd have both been around 17 then, wouldn't we? Yeah, 96.
17.
I think Charlie made his debut in.
And Cots also got dragged out at Lane Ends by his stepmum. But I'll let Charlie tell you that tale.
So 96, you're starting to make appearances and you're playing quite a bit of, of senior cricket. What's your early memories of that? The step up to playing full days.
My first recollections were that I was playing, Benny and Johnny Russell started playing more regular in second team before the rest of us. So when we went in there, we're a little bit easier in the fact that, we had a pal in there. Everyone was dead right. But my first recollection was that it were a dressing room full of blokes. Do you know what I mean? And good cricketers. And the crack were fierce. There were no room for, mad asses or anything like that. Just didn't wash. But everyone, you were a family then, everyone looked out for you. Everyone looked out for each other, especially for young lads. Tried to make you feel welcome. But my memory were that there was some, bloody good cricketers in that team, the Brom and people like that who, lovely bloke, great player. The likes of Ted Whittle and Simon Payne and John Proc and Shez in Sheridan, good players, really good players, and you're thinking it's dawning on you, think cracky, if I want to, I've got to perform as well as he is, or if I want to get up batting order, I've got to try and do something, and it was quite daunting, because like I said, they were good cricketers.
And I've got to say, I'm sure you would have been the same then. I mean, obviously I knew of all you juniors coming through, and we were really positive and really looking forward to those people coming through. But you have been the type of player that you would take things on. You would, decide to yourself, right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, whether it's a long-term plan of make myself better a shot or do something, you would take ownership. Whereas, Dooch would do the same, but you won't particularly notice it. So that's interesting you say that. You go into a dressing room, you're obviously comfortable, but there's a lot of senior players in there. How were you then? So you're 16, 17, getting in second team, you're doing quite well with us. You're obviously a good fun, good crack, and along with all the other lads. And if you remember, during, sometimes at practice sessions, we'd have, we'd relax, having a game of football, warm down, playing football or cricket. And it was clear to me that you played, a good standard of football. I was still playing football then. We had some other lads who could play. And it was clear you played a good standard. I mean, I've not really heard the story, Gav, around your development from being a decent but really young age in the early teens up to, maybe the end of the school. Just give us a resume and be proud of the fact that you're a player that you were. Tell us where you played and what happened.
So, as a young lad, I was at Rovers for 3 years. Then when I left there, I went on trial at Leeds United for a month. That was really interesting. Completely out of my depth there. That was great. And then I was at Bury then for a season. after that, I was at Rochdale, and Rochdale was the last club I was at, and that was probably, it seems a lifetime ago, Jess, to be honest with you, but, you know, that was probably 16 when I left that. In all honesty, you know, you sort of know yourself, don't you, whatever sport it is, you probably think, pity your stomach, you know, have I done enough, have I not? Perhaps I thought, you know, perhaps I have, but it was no surprise to me when I hadn't. And also as well, at that point, when I was 16, I was leaving school and I didn't go to college, I went to work. You know, I was playing cricket all summer. And then in winter, you know, I'm thinking, right, well, you know, I've been let go of the club now. What do? Do I go and look at the clubs in the area and go and play at a decent amateur level? You know, and I thought, well, no, I don't really want to. No, you know, I was a mad King Clarets fan. By that age, I had loads of pals. I really enjoyed going out with my pals and having a pint, and I wanted to go on turf. So from 16 onwards, really, I didn't really take my football that seriously. You know, and the summer, the way I looked at it then was, you know, I would put everything into my summer, you know, because by that point, I wanted to play first 11. I didn't know if I were good enough, but that was my ambition, to buy hook or by crook to get into first team. And in winter, I wanted to follow Clarets, and I wanted to go on turf on a Saturday with my mates with Stanley and have a pint. I'm sure you'll all agree. There's nothing better than going out and having a pint with your mates. It's brilliant. It's the best thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world, and I loved it.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, Gav. I agree with you, but it's also good to play a tough game of cricket in a nice July evening and then go on having a few pints with your mates. So that's really interesting, that, Gav. And it's, you know, crikey, we've known each other for a long time. We really are good friends and spent some good times together chatting. We've just chatted for, 20 minutes, and I didn't realise that you played at Nelson before you played for us, and that you played at 4 pro clubs. So other people were really interested in that, Gav. So you were early on at Blackburn. Joe Martin, Dooch, anything you just want to add before I ask him about his months at Leeds?
Yeah, I do. I can remember as a kid going to watch Belvedere. I think you were playing for the 3rd team, Gav.
Oh, they were great days.
I bet. But I can remember watching, and obviously I was at the cricket club, and I knew that some of the players were playing, like Charlie and others. And I can remember you taking a throw in and saying, like, nudging my dad and saying, "That's Gav Shields, Dad." I didn't know he played football. And I can remember him telling me about. He said he was an incredible footballer when he were 15 and 16. Absolutely brilliant left foot.
Yeah, not sure about that. But no, they were great days. I went, like I said, I didn't really bother playing. I mean, I played with lads I used to drink with in George Forth when I was 17, 18. We used to play as a team called Whitegate. We used to play on a Sunday. And don't get me wrong, you know, we played on a Sunday afternoon and, you know, we wanted to win. But I started to resemble the shape that I am now. You know, by the weeks and months, I started to get a little bit rounder and a little bit slower. And it were by no means the be all and end all, you know, the games. But Joe, what you're talking about there, that were Paul Stanley started playing back up Belvedere with Sean Durkin and Simon Payne and Paul Tillotson and Andy Stackhouse. And they said, you know, you fancy playing, you know, and they were short one day. And I said, yeah, you know, I'll bring the boots up. And the dressing room, it was brilliant. It was, I cried laughing. It used to do Sean Durkin's head in because, you know, if there were 12 of us, you know, I'd turn up and I'd volunteer to it. So I just wanted to have a laugh. You know what I mean? I weren't bothered necessarily about playing or this or that. I just really enjoyed having the laugh.
Yeah.
So I played up there for a couple of years, but that was brilliant. I mean, we didn't train. We didn't train during the week. We used to go out as a team. We're the same circle of friends as well. So we'd go out on a Friday night, not get until 2:30. You know, get up with Blairy Yard on a Saturday to play football, and the crap was just brilliant. And then it started again after the game. It were great days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Dirk's a great player. I played it quite a lot in the first team with him. You know, a good footballer who enjoyed it. And again, without harping on about this, Gav, you'd be surprised. You know, people will be surprised to hear that short story there around the years of potentially, you know, wanting to become a pro footballer, but also, you know, making a lot more strides in it than a lot of us did. What you mentioned there about you had a month at Leeds, it clearly wasn't for you. What happened then? What are your memories around that?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Obviously, there were scouts watching games, and I don't recollect what game it were or when, but basically, after the game, you know, go over to my dad and said, you know, would you like to come over? And yeah, absolutely. You know, my memory is that you used to go either on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, and then on a Sunday morning. So twice a week. Every training session were like less and less. Do you know what I mean? And it was such I mean, you know, I grew up on Acky Road. You know what I mean? I used to kick around Sycamore Avenue, and I was in the middle of Leeds. There were like people same age as me, and they were like really 6 foot and, you know, shaving and stuff. Yeah. I was so high to be dead, but you know, I give it best I could. You know, best I could do. But you know, the standard was just unbelievable, and you know, and I lasted more than, you know, longer than a few. And looking back, you know, even at the time though, I was thinking, I'm just going to enjoy this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just going to enjoy it. You know, and there was the training bit was on the side of Ellen Road, and there was like a really big grassed area, and like metal fencing all around it, and it was on there. We used to train on there. Yeah. So you're like thinking, wow, you know, this is brilliant. You know, but the standard was immense. Like I said, very quickly.
Like you said, you've done everything you can. You know, we've had Tony Woodworth on, and it was so interesting to listen to his development around pro football and being apprentice, everything. And it's all credit to you that you did that. So that's fantastic, that, Gav. Thanks for telling us about that. People will appreciate it.
Gordon, send more house to save the house.